Today is Wednesday, April 16th. I'm Logan Moody and this is the Contrarian. Today I wanted to talk about why gold is rocketing higher, up 12% in just the last week. It's had multiple days where it's been up over $100, around 3% in consecutive days. Just closed over $3,350, so getting really close to actually the target that I formerly had for gold. Now, obviously, I've raised that. I think it can go much higher, but really, I'm trying to answer the question of why is gold going so much higher, especially after what happened last Wednesday with President Trump essentially pausing a lot of the tariffs and kind of almost a return of liquidity, I would say, to markets around the world. But in response to that, not only did we see stocks rally pretty massively last Wednesday on April 9th, but we saw gold and silver rally hugely, and actually since then, gold is up significantly more than what most stocks are up. So it seems like something has changed, perhaps in the long term, but at least in the short term. And so really what I'm looking at is why is gold rallying so strongly, whereas we're starting to see some US equities, the market indices, not maybe perform as well, at least so far. And really one big thing that I'm seeing is just a lack of interest now on the part of foreign investors and foreign capital of investing into US equities and US based assets. So we've really seen just overnight in the Asian markets, for example, is primarily where we're seeing a lot of these jumps up in the gold price is actually in the overnight time period when the Asian markets are open. So this really does point to Chinese buyers, Indian buyers, just a lot of foreign capital buying into precious metals and precious metal assets, not as much so into US equities or the stock market, things like that that they were maybe formerly investing in as well. And we'd really seen this actually in the last couple of years. Foreign capital was actually still very much so flowing into US equities because it was kind of the only name in town. I mean, Nvidia, Apple, some of these big high-flying tech stocks were really the place to be the last 2 years, and foreign capital was very much so participating with that. So you would see Chinese investors and Japanese investors investing in all of these, major U.S. companies. And really, I think in part why gold is rallying so much on this is it's not just a complete rotation out of U.S. equities. It could even just be a small shift in terms of overall allocation. I mean, the gold and silver markets, precious metals assets, generally speaking, are not a huge market to begin with. I mean, gold is definitely the largest of them all. If you look at total, assets, total market cap globally, gold would definitely be the biggest of those three that I just mentioned. But I mean, you're also starting to see the mining stocks participate, start to play catch up. We really have yet to see silver play catch up. I do think a lot of that has to do with just how silver is much more of an industrially dependent metal, and also the fact that we really have not seen retail investors start to get on board with this yet. I think that will change, probably sooner rather than later, but really once you do start to see retail investors, just your average US investor, I would say, kind of realize that they've missed the bandwagon with gold and gold related assets, that's actually when they tend to rotate into silver. And when you tend to see silver really outperform gold is in the latter stages of a gold bull market. So, really what in my mind so far has led to gold rocketing higher is just foreign capital buying into gold, especially just physical gold that they can purchase. Also, gold-related mining stocks and things like that have really performed well as well. So in my mind, it's really a foreign capital type of story right now. It's definitely not a U.S. investor. I mean, there are U.S. investors that are starting to wake up to this, but actually, I would say deliberately at this point, the US mainstream media is ignoring what is going on with gold. They're talking about whatever else they want to talk about, when in reality, I would say the story in gold is probably the biggest story in the last few days. But so far, the US mainstream media is completely ignoring that. And actually, today they were discouraging US investors from owning precious metal assets, at least on Bloomberg. One of the folks on Bloomberg was discouraging against it, saying that gold is, rolling over soon or something like that, when they're really, in fact, missing the story of just how much gold has outperformed, you know, most other asset classes in the United States. They're completely ignoring that. And I mean, yeah, gold, you could see it correct some from here. It is looking pretty toppy. You could see it correct, I don't know, back to the $3,000 level, if not even a little under that, to kind of reset sentiment. So I'm definitely not one to say that, gold is going straight to $5,000 an ounce from here. I'm definitely not naive to believe that. I mean, it could happen. I mean, gold could never go under $3,000 an ounce again, but I'm highly skeptical of that. If anything, in this kind of a market environment, you could just have much more volatility both to the downside and to the upside. So you could see gold, retest $2,800 an ounce, but then a month later it could be up to new all-time highs again. I mean, it seems like just overall volatility has really picked up. Perhaps some of what we're seeing right now in gold could be a short covering. I hesitate to say that because it really did seem to be that silver was the market that was manipulated lower with just really heavy short interest, but gold could be in that camp as well, and you could have some, short sellers who are underwater enough at this point that they want to cover, and that could be in part driving the gold price higher. I don't know about that. I think it's mainly a foreign capital story as of yet. It's not even a US capital story yet, although I think it will turn into that. I think that kind of like with most assets, as they reach their apogee, the kind of peak that they end up hitting, it's kind of when you get the peak interest from your average investor. Unfortunately, most investors are not early in on the game, and even if they do hear about something early, they tend to kind of ignore it until it's maybe a little too late. So, unfortunately, it's kind of the case when I do see the average US investor actually begin to act on their optimism in gold and silver is actually probably when I will be looking to exit, or at least trim profits substantially at that point. So, it's really kind of why I call this channel the Contrarian, is because I'm looking for value where very few, if any, other people are looking, or not any, but, definitely fewer people than average are looking. And then when it does turn to be a major story, that is when I become less comfortable with it overall. But I think we're not close to that as of yet. What I would look for next in this precious metals bull market, of course, I did say that gold is looking a bit toppy where it is now. I have taken some profits off the table. Although if it does correct, I would add back in, when it seems like it has bottomed, wherever that ends up being, whether it goes back down to $3,000 an ounce or a little under that, I don't know, but I would definitely add back into it. Personally, of course, not trying to provide any kind of advice in any way, but I don't see this market as being over just yet, as I do see a lot of just lack of interest overall in the US market. But yeah, we could see gold correct, we could see the mining stocks correct. Although I do remain very bullish on the mining stocks, I do think they still have a lot of catching up to do. Of course, silver, like I mentioned, I think will be kind of a latter stage of the gold bull market, the precious metals bull market. I think silver will really start to outperform, probably sooner rather than later, but I might have thought that it would already be doing that at the moment, and it really has not yet. So silver is kind of what I would see as coming up next, but that's of course just my personal opinion. I would love to know what all of you think about all of this in the comment section below, what you see as primary reason for gold and that rallying so much in the last couple of weeks, and what you would look for going forward. So I hope you found this valuable. I hope to see all of you again at some point.